First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Proverbs, the 15th chapter. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. And a soft answer, it's like a calm answer, right? And it turns away wrath. You can take an example where if you piss somebody off or you did something wrong and immediately they're angry, but based on your response and your demeanor, you might apologize, right? Or you might, just diffuse the situation, and that quells wrath, right? But grievous words stir up anger, and that's basically what triggers people. You might make a bad situation worse just by their demeanor or the things that you say. The tongue of the unwise useth knowledge aright, or Salakia, the tongue of the wise useth knowledge aright. So they use the wise are able to use words of knowledge correctly, but the mouth of fools poureth out foolishness, right? But the opposite is for fools, right? What comes out of their mouth, as water comes from a cloud, is folly. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. Now, when it says foolishness, right, it's not necessarily just like they just say dumb shit, but sometimes the reasoning in what they say, it's not good at all. It's very poor, and you say, no, that's a bad idea, right? That's a bad recommendation to even think like that, because and you can see far ahead that this kind of person can be entrusted with important matters, because if this is how they reason about certain matters or situations, they wouldn't know what to do, when you give them a hard task. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. A wholesome tongue is a tree of life. So the Lord is watching everything, right, via his angels, but he's looking at the good and the evil, and he acts accordingly and judges accordingly. A wholesome tongue is a tree of life, right? A tongue that speaks wholesome words. It's as refreshing as a tree of life. But perverseness therein is a breach in the spirit, right? Perverseness in the tongue, that is like when you speak perverse things, is like a breach in the spirit. Okay, at least it can, let's look at that word, breach. Right, breaking, fracture, crushing, so, quarries, shattering, ruin. So by your words, you can ruin or crush or harm somebody's spirit through perverse words or actions. A fool despiseth his father's instruction, but he that regardeth reproof is prudent. Yeah, a fool despiseth his father's instruction, and what is the end goal of that fool? Destruction. They despise their father's instruction, and their end goal is destruction. A father corrects and reproves, right? From your carnal father to your heavenly father. And when you despise those instructions, you're led astray, right? But he that regardeth reproof, that's correction, is prudent. They're wise. In the house of the righteous is much treasure, but the revenues of the wicked is trouble. So in the house of the righteous, there's treasure. Okay, that's through the righteousness and the wisdom that they've accumulated. So the treasure are valuable things, right? If you go into the house of the righteous, there's benefit, but the revenue, right, the reward or what's stored up for the wicked is trouble. The lips of the wise disperse knowledge, right? It spreads or brings forth knowledge, but the heart or the minds or the thoughts of the foolish doeth not so. So you're not going to get knowledge from a fool unless they're mimicking something they heard from a wise. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord, but the prayer of the upright is his delight. Yeah, because when you sacrifice, it's more than just the actual offering. It's about, the Lord is also looking at you and your inward part. So you're coming here to sacrifice to the Lord. Meanwhile, you're a wicked person. Why do you think the Lord would accept that? So you can come here and you can follow the sacrificial law, but when it comes to how you're supposed to act and behave, that just goes out the window. But the prayer of the upright, however, right, is his delight. It's pleasing to the Lord, because these are those that are following the instructions of the Lord, and that is pleasing to him. So when they pray to the Lord, their prayers are heard and granted speedily. The way of the wicked is an abomination unto the Lord, but he loveth him that followeth after righteousness. Correction is grievous unto him that forsaketh the way. And what is that way? The way of righteousness. Okay, so those that forsake the way of righteousness, they hate correction. And he that hateth reproof shall die. Because if you can't be corrected, you're going to be left to your own devices. And what is that eventually going to lead to? Sin. And what is the wages of sin? Death. Hell and destruction are before the Lord Yahweh. How much more then the hearts of the children of men? So it says here in the NLT, even death and destruction hold no secrets from the Lord, right? When it says they're before the Lord, it's bare. So how much more does he know the human heart? And that's why he's able to judge righteously and perfectly, because there's nothing that can be hid from the Lord. A scorner loveth not one that reproveth him. And that's like, even when you take a look at Yahushua, you know, in the New Testament, when he came on the earth, a lot of those that hated his reproof, you know, scorned him, right? They spoke against him. And they were mad because he was taking off that cloak that they had for their sins. Okay, it says here, a scorner loveth not one that reproveth him, neither will he go unto the wise, because he knows that he's going to get rebuked or reproved. A merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance, right? A happy heart, you know, makes you smile. If you're, you know, like when you're just there and you have a happy thought. One example is, let's say you're expecting a gift, right, or something to happen, and then, you know, you think about it, and when you think about it, you get excited in your mind, and then you smile, right, or your face lights up, just the thought of it. But by sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken. See, a broken heart, you know, it leads to a contrite spirit. The heart of him that hath understanding seeketh knowledge, but the mouth of fools feedeth on foolishness. So those that have understanding, they seek knowledge, right? They seek more how to grow, how to become wiser, how to get better, because they have a wise heart. But the mouth of fools feedeth on foolishness. So that's why they're addicted to those things. You don't often see fools seeking knowledge. They're seeking what? Folly. Okay. Verse 15, it says, all the days of the afflicted are evil, but he that is of a merry heart hath a continual feast. Okay. So all the days of the afflicted are evil, but he that, because, you know, afflicted, you know, like you're wounded or you have some illness, you know, the days are evil, right? It's not fun. You know, you're suffering. But he that is, I think there's a scripture that says death is better than continual sickness. However, he that is of a merry heart hath a continual feast, right? Life is good, you know, when everything is good, right? Especially in your heart and your mind, you're not stressed. Better is little with fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. And let's see, what's that? How does the precept go? Yeah. Ecclesiasticus 19:24, he that hath small understanding and feareth God is better than one that hath much wisdom and transgresseth the law of the Most High. So, as it says, better is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. And that's why even Solomon said, right, I think it's in the book of Proverbs, that give me neither riches nor poverty, but rather feed me with food convenient for me. Because you can have great treasure, but it comes with trouble, you know. But if you have a little bit and you have the fear of the Lord, you're good. Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a stalled ox. It's like stalled ox is like today, like you would say, like steak, and hatred therewith. So you're eating good, right? But with a company of hatred, you know, animosity is worse, right? You can be poor and your dinner plate is just herbs or greens, but you know your company is love. You know, eating it with loved ones and so on. That's better than having the top-notch meal surrounded by you know, hate. A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeaseth strife. Yeah, those that are so quick to, today you call them the rah-rah. They have that rah-rah spirit, right? They're so quick. They want to, they think they're so tough. They're always trying to start something. Of course, they're going to stir up strife. They turn little deals into big deals. They make problems out of nothing. But the contrary, right? He that is slow to anger appeaseth strife. Because, you don't, when somebody is at a level 10, if you go to level 20, they're going to go to level 30. And that's how things escalate. Well, when somebody, Babylon teaches you that somebody, once they start getting loud, you got to start getting loud too. But you can actually reverse that. If you're slow to anger, you have more self-control. You can appease and quell and dilute, or what's the word I'm looking for? Diffuse, a situation by not getting in your emotions. Verse 19. The way of the slothful man is as an hedge of thorns, but the way of the righteous is made plain. It's as a lazy person's way. A lazy person's way is blocked with briars, but the path of the upright is an open highway. Because a lazy person's way being blocked with briars is like you can't make progress. You can't go through there, right? So you're stuck. But the path of the upright is like an open highway. You have open access. You can continue to make progress. This is why the slothful man comes to poverty. A wise man maketh a glad father, but a foolish man despiseth his mother. Yeah, a father is proud of a wise son, because the wise son is obedient and brings glory to their household. But a foolish man despiseth his mother. Okay, and what? In one of the Proverbs it mentions they bring heaviness to their mother because they despise the instruction that they're taught. Folly is joy to him that is destitute of wisdom. And you see a lot of that today. A lot of people that are destitute of wisdom, they take joy in stupidity. Those that have wisdom, you look at that like it's folly, right? What's the point in that? It's vain. Okay? These trends, they just hop on there for views and likes, and it's all vain. Borderline dangerous. But a man of understanding walketh uprightly. Without counsel, purposes are disappointed. So purposes, intentions, plans. If you don't have counsel, to think it through, it can come to naught, right? It's disappointed. It doesn't succeed. But in the multitude of counselors, they are established. A man hath joy by the answer of his mouth, and a word spoken in due season, how good is it? So by a certain response, you can bring joy, but and it says a word spoken in due season at the right time. How good is it? Okay, it's really good. I think in Ecclesiasticus it also mentions something similar. NLT, everyone enjoys a fitting reply. It is wonderful to say the right thing at the right time. The way of life is above to the wise, that he may depart from hell beneath. It says here, the path of life leads upward for the wise. They leave the grave behind. NIV, the path of life leads upward for the prudent to keep them from going down to the realm of the dead. In other words, the path of the prudent, right, is it delivers from death. in so many words. The Lord Yahweh will destroy the house of the proud, but he will establish the border of the widow. And the widow are likened unto those that are, are less fortunate in society, and can also represent us, right? The proud can represent Esau, and the widow can represent Israel. But generally, even speaking, the Lord is going to destroy the house or the foundation of the proud and establish the border, of the widow, and raise them up. The thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to the Lord, but the words of the pure are pleasant words. He that is greedy of gain troubleth his own house. Because what's going to happen eventually through that greed? You're gonna eventually bring demise through that greed. Greed triggers eventually ill actions. Because you can't have enough. You're never satisfied. If you have people that go to the casino, right? or they gamble, and they go on a streak, and they start getting good, and they know that at some point, like, all right, you know what, I should probably stop. I'm good where I'm at now. But what happens? No, they had to do one more gamble. They had to do one more round, and they lose it all. It says, but he that hateth gifts shall live. And that gift is bribes. Because I think it's in Ecclesiastes, or it might be in Proverbs, but it mentions that a gift destroyeth the heart, right? Because it perverts, it corrupts the mind. The prudent, you know, you may be prudent, but a gift might force you to overlook a certain matter. The heart of the righteous studieth to answer, right? To know, okay, what you think, you study, you time, and you know, okay, what's the best answer to give? You think before you speak. But the mouth of the wicked poureth out evil things, because they speak without thinking, and they just say whatever out their mouth. And something spoken out of season can lead to evil. It can start a quarrel, you know, it can start an argument, it can ruin friendships. The Lord is far from the wicked, but he heareth the prayer of the righteous. The light of the eyes rejoiceth the heart, and a good report maketh the bones fat. It says, a cheerful look brings joy to the heart. Good news, that's a good report, makes for good health. So when your bones are fat, your actual bones are not getting fat, okay, but it's metaphorical speech. The ear that heareth the reproof of life abideth among the wise. Yeah, so if you hear the reproof of life, right, the correction to bring you unto life, you're going to dwell amongst the wise. Proverbs 21:6. The man, let's get that real quick. 21:16. Slakia. The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. So what is the opposite is true, right? The one that remains in the way of understanding shall be brought to life, right? So here, when it mentions the ear that heareth the reproof of life abideth among the wise. He that refuseth instruction despiseth his own soul. When you refuse instruction, you're harming yourself. If you do something bad and somebody's trying to correct you and you're just ignoring it, what's going to happen? If you're driving 100 miles an hour on a bridge that is, you know, half of it is broken in the middle somewhere, and somebody's trying to stop you and calm you down, and you're not hearing it, what's going to happen? You think the person who's trying to stop you off the side of the bridge is the one that's going to fall off? No. Your ass is going to fall off. That was a bit of an extreme example, but it gets the point across. But he that heareth reproof getteth understanding, because you learn. When you're corrected, it's for your betterment. You got to look at it like that. It's not always that somebody's trying to get at you or embarrass you. It's for you to learn. The fear of the Lord Yahweh is the instruction of wisdom, and before honor is humility. So the first step in gaining wisdom is you got to fear the Lord, and fearing the Lord in itself is wisdom. Because you understand the Lord controls all. So if there's one to be feared, it really is the Most High. And before honor is humility. So you got to be humble before getting raised up. And that brings us to the end of the book of Proverbs, the 15th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakha Kudash. Until next time, Shalom.